Nothing worked. And I just shut up. And seeing the look on his face when he saw fireworks for the first time, guys, ever in his life, I was there because I shut up and I let the kid be himself and just be for a moment.
I think this is such a critical part of starting to create consistently, because if you don't measure it correctly, you're going to find that roadblock very quickly. It's going to come like a wall into your face, and you got to make sure that you're prepped for that.
You build a relationship with your ideal prospect when it's convenient for them. The biggest issue in business is that the business owner thinks that the client has to buy on their time frame. And that's misconception number one.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast,
where we talk about entrepreneurship, mindset, and of course, how to turn your content into profit.
But most importantly, we're here to have a good time with you. So go to contentisprofit.com and join the community. That's right.
Woo-wee. That is right.
Wow.
And today, we have an incredible guest. I'm very excited. He is extremely knowledgeable.
Yes.
And he's very wise looking. You're gonna see what I'm talking about.
He also has a new nickname today. Yeah.
A new nickname today?
A new nickname. Yep.
But guys, even more importantly, we're gonna be talking all about launching and promoting a podcast while becoming the authority in the market.
That's right. Sounds like that.
Sounds hashtag juicy.
Hashtag juicy. That's right. And if you are enjoying this show every single week, go ahead and follow it in your favorite platforms, because every Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturday, these episodes are dropping on your phone as soon as FONZI hits that publish button, which, by the way, he's been doing so good and so good.
Appreciate the compliment. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and follow Content is Profit.
It's Monday, baby, and you know what that means. Another guest, another gem. Today's guest is here to enlighten your journey to better podcasting.
Ooh, that is right. Today's guest not only has over 350 podcasts to his name, I gotta say podcast episodes to his name, but he has been responsible for the production of over 4,000 episodes. Podcasting royalty.
That's right. He's also the founder of Proud Mouth. He helps the world experts from sales. Hold on.
Yeah.
FONZI, what's this?
Yeah, I definitely mistyped that. He's like, he helps the world experts can escape sales.
Wow.
Yeah. I definitely mistyped that one in there.
I'm the creator of Pod Rocket Academy, which will help you launch your podcast and become the go-to authority in your market.
Hashtag juicy. Please welcome host of the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast, your friendly neighborhood podcasting expert, and contender for Best Beard of the Year, Matt Halloran.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Thank you, guys.
How you doing, Matt?
Welcome, Matt.
Good. Wow. Look, I'm red. You guys got me blushing already. I haven't even been on the camera yet. Goodness gracious.
I think that's makeup, because when we talked about it, like, you're like, this is camera. I'm ready for camera 24/7, man, and that's what content creators need to do today. I love it, Matt. We connected through a common friend, and we've been on a couple of calls, and what you guys do is so incredible, and you have been just so kind with all the information that you've shared, and it's just been a blast, man, and that's what content is supposed to be. So for those that don't know you, you want to share a little bit of your story, kind of like how you got started with your company that you have today, and
Sure.
and your journey publishing.
So I got behind the radio when I was behind the microphone. I was 13. My high school actually had a radio station, and my name was Madman Matt Halloran. And I remember getting off the first show, guys, and I ran into my advisor's office, and I was like, okay, I know what I want to be when I grow up. She said, yeah, find another job. I was 13, man. I was like, my first dream was totally destroyed at 13. So anyway, long and winding road, blah, blah, blah. Not going to go through. So about 6 years ago, I met with my current partner. He's been a marketing and branding consultant for a long time, and I was a practice management consultant for a long time. And we realized that experts don't want to be told what to do. They want trusted people to do it for them, all surrounding marketing and client communication. So that's when we built Proudmouth. We built basically it's a turnkey system for experts. We specifically work with financial services professionals, estate planning attorneys, and accountants. So kind of, boring people, to be brutally honest, right? But it's amazing how many of them have amazing personalities, and it comes out during their show. And we take their podcast, we do lots of stuff with it, which I'm sure we can talk more about. So that's who we are, and that's what we've been doing.
That's amazing. So I found it very interesting here in the U.S. We're from Venezuela, so that's why I say here in the U.S., you know. I love that they have these like school radios, all these things, right? To, I guess, like, I don't know if it's just hobbies, but I see all these kids growing up very passionately in very different fields. We didn't really have that back at home, but I personally feel like if we would have a multimedia studio at the school, we would have been all over it. So I'm curious, like, what about that experience was it that caught your attention? The love for speaking in the mic, sharing your message, right?
I had a lot to do with the room, man. It's like there's this level of quiet in a studio, which might seem strange, but the minute you take your headphones off, it's like, it's soundproof. And there was just this feeling that I was like, all of this equipment, this warm equipment is like hugging me the whole time. And it felt right, dude. I don't really know if I can elaborate it out anymore. It's just, you know, when I was listening to you guys played soccer this weekend, right? You've been on the pitch, right? And you've run around, and all of a sudden, you know, you're in the zone, right? You're like, damn, I'm just going to kill it. I'm, you know, score a goal, do whatever you're going to do, right? That's how I felt behind the microphone. I felt like I was born to do this. And I just can't believe that a long time later that I actually get to do this for a living.
Yeah, that's awesome. That feels like runner's high type of thing, that you're running and then all of a sudden, I think it's serotonin just like kicks in and you're just in the zone. And that's absolutely amazing.
I really identify with that feeling because, you know how people say like, hey, I hear my voice in the mic and I'm so embarrassed or whatever. Like they do not expect that, you know. So I think that was the comment that we heard the most. And I remember the first time we got these babies right here, you know, almost 300 episodes ago. And we spoke.
We're trying to catch up to you, Matt. We're trying to catch up.
Yeah. We're halfway there. Anyways, so the first time we spoke on these things, and then we heard the recording back, or we heard ourselves like through the headphones. I'm like, this is so awesome. My voice is so good. I feel great. And it was like so opposite to what a lot of people that come into our world start thinking. And you know, it was a very similar feeling. It was not a studio, but it was Fonzi's room, but we had a couple cameras, we had the equipment that we have on the table right now, and it
looked like a porn set, not gonna lie. It was my girlfriend was afraid when she walked in. I was like, babe, it's a podcast, I promise. Podcast.
But it felt right, not the porn set, the equipment, the podcasting equipment. So I really relate. How can people like starting their journey, how can they like mimic that, right? For example, because a lot of people starting to create content feel a fear, and it's a legit fear. It's maybe fear to the unknown, maybe because misinformation. I don't know how to tackle this situation, right?
Very
how can
self-conscious too, in a way, I feel like.
Yeah, so how can people find their footing and start enjoying the process of creation?
Well, I actually think that you have to first off, there has to be a really strong desire to get your voice out into the world, right? And I there are a lot of people, guys, that's just not their thing, right? They are much more introverted. They would like to write, or maybe they like shooting videos. We firmly believe that you have to find the medium or the media that you love to be involved with in order to get your thought leadership out. For us, it's podcasting. I know a bunch of video people. I know blogging people. I know all of but for us, it's really that. But so that's step number one, is you have to have a strong desire to do that. But step number two is you just got to start. I don't know if you guys listen back to your first few episodes, but you are so much better now than you were when you started. We sucked, guys. Oh, it was brutal. And now where we've gotten with all of our processes and how I interview people and the equipment and the post-production, and it just is going to evolve. So you have to kind of embrace that suck at the beginning and realize that you're going to get better, but you have to start. That's the most important possible thing. And you can start. And I don't have all of my props ready. I apologize. The old Apple earbuds, remember those things, the little microphone in the middle?
Yeah.
That right there, that microphone is more than good enough. If you guys watch TikTok, almost every creator is holding that mic up. Do you know why? Because it sounds freaking awesome. Yeah. Right? You don't have to have $500, $600, $700 microphones in order to start your podcast.
Absolutely.
You just have to start podcasting.
Yeah, that's very. You mentioned something that we've kind of discussed on a previous episode with a different guest. And I want to see your take on this because there's a lot of hype around podcasting right now. And you said the person needs to have a strong desire and they need to enjoy the medium that they're going to, be on a lot of the time. So in this world where, let's say the B2B world where businesses are trying to obviously sell their products, sell their services, would you consider that podcasting is a good solution for everybody, right? Like, does everybody needs podcasting? Like, what is your point of view with, I guess, B2B podcast marketing?
It's going to end up being table stakes, guys. Here's the problem. It's so funny to me because people will say, Matt, there's too many podcasts out there, but they never say that about video. They never say that about blogs. They never say that about websites. Everybody got a freaking website, right? So why are we singling out podcasts? It's because people think it's very difficult and they don't understand really the power. So here's the thing. B2B is our fastest growing area of our business. So we have clients that do B2C, so direct to consumer business, but most of our new businesses come in that's B2B because people listen to on average 6 different podcasts a week. Yep. Right. And they're looking for your expertise. That's why people are listening to your show. They want to know what you know. And the more transparent you can be with that, the better off you can be. I think what I would really challenge everybody on is the frequency. Because I don't believe that everybody should be podcasting every week. I don't believe everybody should be podcasting every day. I don't think people should be podcasting twice a month. You can have a run rate that's doable for you, especially if they use your guys' services or stuff that we offer, which is to create more content based off of that original content. Then that podcast has a lot longer life.
Oh, that's so powerful, right? Because I remember when we first started, we're debating like how often do we do this, like and you start trying to Google like how many times is the best podcast or blah blah blah, and like you get answers from all the sides, right? Like as frequent as possible, or once a week or whatever, right? And the answer for us, and I think this is going to help a lot of people out there, was as frequently as we were able to execute, right? So we were coming from the porn sets like scenario. The cadence was about once a week. So we recorded about 5 episodes. Guess how many of those, were out in the, or are out in the light? 0, because there's a lot of friction in the post-production. So we couldn't keep up with the cadence of production at the time, right? And we're like, okay, we got to rethink this. A year later, right? After a few episodes that happened, we committed to do it live because it's very low friction to produce it, right? We had the equipment because we invested in it a year earlier, but we decided to go 3 times a week. Why? Because our business at that time was going through a very rough patch, which we literally had about 60 days of runway. And we're like, if we don't execute something differently now, we're ruined. That's it. Like there's like, we're going to have to go get the job and do the other things that we don't want to do. Yeah. And the show really was a vehicle to multiply those opportunities, right? Like, and that's how we stumbled into that B2B concept behind the show and the 2-sided platform, right? The back end where you build these relationships, and then the front end that you develop this audience. And then 2 years later, we're about to announce something that's really huge on that side. But on the back end, is so important. We kind of like ran into it after executing consistently. We're like, we shortened that like learning curve by producing that, and that's why we stuck to that. But I love the fact that you bring this up to, because there's I personally don't think that there's perfect formula for, like, you just gotta create consistently over a period of time. So what are some examples that you've seen probably in your industry, right, on people that, do you guys stick to a cadence? Have you guys seen many formats? What are some of the most like different, maybe fun formats that you guys have seen?
Well, so we work with very, very specific professionals who are trying to communicate really complex stuff. So fun, I don't know.
Hey, I mean, to that market,
you guys were like mixing music and stuff at the beginning. So cadence wise, so I can answer that for you. So most of our businesses start off with 2 podcasts a month. That's the run rate that we recommend. It's doable, it's aggressive, and it keeps you accountable. We have started offering 1 podcast a month, just because that's what some people can tolerate, whether that's budget or time. But it's crazy, guys. If they start at 1 podcast a month, they bump to 2, usually within 3 months. And then some of our clients now are doing weekly podcasts, which it took them probably 9 to 12 months to get really dialed into their topic, their format, and all of that sort of stuff. But once they got it dialed in, because we have all of our back end dialed in, we can execute whatever you want. They needed to be able to execute, and once they got that, yeah, they're going weekly.
Love it.
Interesting. How can someone either measure their capacity to decide what is the right frequency for them, right? How do you determine that, right? Because we have something that we came across recently, not so recently, a few months ago, that has become really part of our learning process. Before, we would try to find other people's house, right? Like, how do they do this? Let me try to do it over here. Guess what? They have different capacity. They have different resources, and it won't work the same for you. And I feel that that's how we got to so many roadblocks.
Yeah.
Got to a moment where we decided, what is our how? What is our capacity? What are the resources that we have? And with the information that we've learned, can we craft our own how? And I think that is extremely important when it comes to podcasting, right? You were talking about it. It's not kind of like a one size fits all type of thing. So how does somebody go about measuring what is that frequency that they can stick to and be consistent? Because that's the most important part at the end of the day.
Well, so we've done, as you had said in the opening, we've done over 4,000 episodes and over 50,000 social media posts. And so we kind of tried to learn from things, guys. Like, we're like, hey, let's deconstruct this, right? And so as we deconstructed it, here's what we figured out. So if you're going to work with like you guys or us, so professional people who help create content, per chunk of content, so for 30 minutes of content, you need at the beginning about 2 hours of time. And now I'll break that down very quickly. So the first thing is coming up with what in God's name you're going to talk about. The second thing is pre-game. Like, what do you do to warm up? Right? This is a show, which means you got to be ready. Jazz hands, get your voice ready, get your mind ready, get everything set, right? You got to be ready to show.
Yeah.
You know, Fonzie, you don't go play soccer and not stretch out, dude. Like, if you do, you're going to be pulling a hammy. You're going to be hurting first and before the first half's over, right?
You just hit a spot right there. I literally, like 2 months ago, I injured my calf, literally because of that.
Yeah. Well, and this is no different, guys, right? So then you have to bring that into account. The actual recording time, right? So that's important. The ideal podcast length based off Triton research is 27 minutes. And so we strive for all of our clients to do anywhere between 20 and 30-minute shows. And then they have to review the material. So even if you're outsourcing that, you still want to make sure that it sounds like it's communicating what you were communicating in the show. So that 2 hours is how we allocate it. So Fonzie, to answer your question, you have to look at how much you want to do, how many places you want to do it if you're outsourcing it. Because here's the deal. You can just get behind your phone and hit record and do a podcast. That's 1 out of 40 steps that we have in order to execute a successful podcast. 40, right? So you can just do 1 of 40. That's fine. But you're really going to be spending a lot of your time doing that, which is why you guys exist too, right? I mean, you guys help speed that whole process up because you guys got wicked systems in the back end.
This is so good because I go back to the beginning, right? We rented our office and we go to the office, right? And we had this little table in the corner, and then we're like, okay, podcast time. You know, we're gonna go live at 4:30, right? And then 4:15 comes along, we're setting up and the whole thing, and then 4:45 comes along, and then 5 you're like, oh crap, we're going live at 5:15 p.m. Okay, lesson learned. We gotta prep, and it got to the point where what happened was we're leaving our set as is, right? And literally the only thing that we got to connect to the computer is a roadcaster and literally press the rep button, and that's it, right? Because with the lessons, like, okay, we prep ahead of time. We have a cheat sheet. Like, we have these questions that people answer before time. Sometimes, Fonzie is a great mind that works on the intros, right? So we're like, okay, what is the time allocated for that? If you have a team, what is the time that your team has to allocate, or that by when do you have to do it? It's all these pieces, like you said, in your process, 40 steps. That's no joke. Right? So when people try to execute themselves, I think this is such a critical part of starting to create consistently, because if you don't measure correctly, you're going to find that roadblock very quickly. It's going to come like a wall into your face, and you got to make sure that you're prepped for that. So how we solved it was we remove friction, right? Like we don't, we just have the setup. All we got to do is connect the computer, and that's it. And as you start executing, if you're doing it yourself, you're going to start finding these things. Make sure add them into a list, write them down, and make sure that you have them ready for the next time. If you have the resources, if you're a bigger company, if you do B2B, the people that you work with, Matt, or the people that we work with, Right. Make sure that you allocate these resources correctly so you can save a lot of time. It's like when we work with Greg, the CMO, incredible person, incredible company. They have about 80 employees, right? He was investing about like 8 hours a week trying to figure out content, just figuring it out. And you're like, what? And what we gave him back was time. At the time was like 4 hours a month. And just with that piece of information, he was like, I'm done. Let's do it. Right. So time is super valuable as you move forward, and even at the very beginning. Right. So I think that's a very important lesson.
Yeah. But I want to transition a little bit towards your mission, because it did caught my attention. Right. And I know I actually missed a word when I was typing the intro there, and then I set my brother up for failure. It was on purpose. But, the mission that you shared was pretty much, let me see if I can find it here, help the word experts kind of like escape sales. Is that correct?
Well, it's to free the world's experts from the torment of sales. That's correct.
There we go. Free the world's experts from the torment of sales. I love that, right? Because in so many people's minds, selling is very scary, right? And so a lot of people perceive it as very sketchy. I was one of those. So why is podcasting? Because I'm guessing you're using podcasting as a medium to whether build relationships, X, Y, and Z. I want you to share that with me, so I don't want to like paint any images. But why is it so powerful to move on beyond let's call it the typical definition of selling, right? Why is it so powerful for B2B?
You build a relationship with your ideal prospect when it's convenient for them. The biggest issue in business is that the business owner thinks that the client has to buy on their time frame. And that's misconception number one. You need to create your content and have that relationship building component when it is convenient and easy for your ideal prospect to consume your content. And you have to figure out where that is. Hey guys, just for sometimes podcasting isn't the right thing, right? Maybe it's a 3-minute TikTok video, or maybe it's an Instagram reel or a Pinterest board. I don't care what it is, but you have to meet your ideal prospect where they're at with organic content, right? That's shared with them when it's convenient for them to consume. If you do that, then you're not selling. So I'll give you a couple of quick examples. We have such a structured format for our podcast, for podcasts like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that the first few podcasts do all of the selling for you, and then you get into other content. So number one, you have to build a relationship with your ideal prospect. So we make them tell the story. Who are you? Why do I care? Why? What's in it for me? Right? Why are you doing what you're doing? And you better have a compelling story, because if you don't, you're a schmuck, and I don't want to listen anymore. Right? Then number two, what is the client experience like? What is it like to work with me? Number three, who works with me? Why don't we just tell people that? I don't understand why you just don't say, hey, I work with financial services professionals who generally been in the business for over 20 years, who have advanced designations, who have over $100 million assets under management, right? Which if you're in financial services, you know what all of those things mean. But I'm speaking to my audience there, and we are unapologetic about it. So what happens is this: people call you pre-sold. So my sales process when we first started was 7 to 10 phone calls, 7 to 10, where I was taking 7 to 10 hours of my time explaining to people who we are, what we did, and why it was important. Why do they need to write me a check? It's 3 now.
Yeah. Incredible. That's a massive win.
Unbelievably efficient.
That's a massive win. Yeah.
Yeah. That's I love the way you position yourself, Proudmouth, right? And I've also noticed that you have a second podcast, right? So it's not just the Top Advisor Marketing, that's right, but you have, what is the name of the other one? Sorry?
Be Your Own Loud. Be Your Own Loud is our second podcast.
Be Your Loud. So is there a reason why you have 2 different podcasts, right?
It is. So the Top Advisor Marketing podcast, the reason why that's where it is because that's our ideal target market, right? We work with financial services professionals, really experts in financial services. That's what our bread and butter is. But then we started realizing that, what is the most important thing for anybody to create amazing content is unapologetically being themselves. So we call it Be Your Own Loud, right? What do you need to do to be your own loud? And the only way you can be loud without contributing to the noise which another one of our big slogans here is to help people rise above the noise, is you have to unapologetically be yourself, because the minute that you're you, you have no competition, because there is no other you. And so we built the Be Your Own Loud podcast. We did it actually to learn how to stream. So we were streaming using Restream, was the program that we were using. We still do some of them. In fact, we just released one. I had a guy who sang, by the way. I was crazy. He's a musician. He was so good. We had the Poet Laureate of Georgia on the podcast. But the reason why we bring these people on the Be Your Own Loud podcast is very explicitly, they have to have given themselves permission through usually a major life event, just so you know, that allowed them to say, you know what, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Take me or leave me. I'm going to be me. And all of a sudden they saw their business explode.
Yeah. That what you just mentioned right now, having gone through a major kind of like life event, I feel that is a trigger for multiple people. And we've kind of noticed this as a trend. And we've made that question plenty of times in the past, which is, do you believe that somebody has to go through that to make that change, right? It's very, I found it extremely interesting. We've been diving a lot into like identity, right? Like, okay, we're operating in a certain way. And if we want to achieve X, Y, and Z, we need to look ourselves in a different identity at all. We need to operate over there, right? It's not like, oh, I want that thing, because immediately you're telling yourself that you're probably not worthy at that moment. And to make that change kind of like consistent, I've heard plenty of times that you need those major life events to happen. Now, that being said, have you had one of those major life events?
Oh my God, I've had so many for FONZI, dude. I mean, we don't have enough time.
The beard was one, like one that you woke up and it was like perfect beard.
Here's one of the ones that really truly made me realize the power of shutting up. Which is funny because I'm a professional podcast host, as you guys are, and I teach people how to podcast, but listening was the most important thing. Okay, so my wife and I worked at a place called Boys Town. Now, Boys Town is a place in Omaha, Nebraska for at-risk teenage boys. And there's hundreds and hundreds of kids who go through this. We worked with 36 over 5 years, but we had just kind of been there for about a year. We had 4 kids at a time. These were really high rates of behavior, like kids like screaming, yelling, throwing stuff at us all the time, whatever. That's just what our life was. We chose that, by the way. And we were at the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska, and this kid wouldn't move. All right, so it was the show, because it was a show, it was baseball. But anyway, the baseball game was almost over, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, at every College World Series game, there's fireworks. And we wanted to get out of there because we had a bunch of at-risk, like mostly like real diagnosed ADHD kids. We wanted to get them out of there before everybody else started leaving. And so that we could go to a separate location to watch the fireworks, okay? This kid wouldn't move. So all of the people left, and I'm sitting there with this kid, and he just wanted to see the fireworks. And I was using every tip, trick, behavioral technique, getting, we had scripts upon scripts to try to get these kids to do what we wanted. Nothing worked. And I just shut up. And seeing the look on his face when he saw fireworks for the first time, guys, ever in his life, I was there because I shut up and I let the kid be himself. And just be for a moment. That's the sort of stuff that makes you say, why am I trying to be like everybody else? Like Jesus, if I just am myself, if I just be with a person at that moment, you get to experience life-changing stuff. And I feel that's one of the greatest things about being a podcast host, interviewing people, because I get to witness that. If I shut up and I listen and I pay attention and I be present in that moment, freaking magic happens. And that's why we started the Be Your Own Loud podcast. That's why, I've done over 1,000 podcasts, guys. I mean, this is what I do. And I feel so absolutely lucky that I get to do it.
So awesome.
It is something. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking over here. I'll let you talk here in a little bit.
Hashtag choke the mic.
So that is absolutely amazing. Recently, I've been talking to some people that I meet at the coffee shop. We call it coffee serendipity. And when they realized that I host a podcast, they're like, wow, that is so cool. And then I was like, yes, and it's like, I get in the zone and I'm like, it's absolutely amazing. And then they usually ask like, well, like, how do you find these people, right? Like, what is it to talk to all these different types of people? And you're like, it's absolutely amazing. And it goes hand in hand with what you share, which is like, each person is like their own world. And it's amazing to just witness it, to experience a little bit of their world, right? Like, you could tell right now, I mean, you kind of, your voice broke in there a little bit in that story.
Dude, absolutely.
A little bit. Like the whole screen has like a crack.
Stop talking, dude. I could have paid away and moved my camera and dried my eyes, dude. That's I've told that story 100 times. But it's because it was that impactful.
Yeah.
Right. And when you pay attention to life, when you actually experience life, not try to arrive at death safely with no bumps or bruises, when you try to live life, crazy stuff like that happens, and you have to be open and available to it. And I don't believe you can be somebody else and be true to those moments.
Yeah. I think obviously it's clear that we love this medium, right? Like, and as you were sharing that story, incredible, powerful story too. And I wrote something down here, like podcasting got us through the pandemic, right? Like, it's like for us, like it means so much. Like we've said multiple times, like if everything has to go, the show is the last thing to go. Like, and it's like, it's for real. And, you know, one of the things that we've struggled personally has been sticking with things for a long time or executing, right? Like this thing. And the show is like this thing that continues to happen every single week, multiple times a week. And, you know, aside from the business, it did save us. It allowed us to build a team. It allowed us to scale. It allowed us to learn a ton of lessons. We're still doing it. You know, we cycled massively last year. Like it was like, the growth, the personal growth and the business growth has been incredible, but also it allows to connect with the people that we want to connect in the world, right? Like whether that's business related or not. And, you know, it's the last 2 years has been dark. We have family in Venezuela, for example, right? Like every single phone call that we have with them, it's a complaint fest, right? Like from a couple of our family members, right? And it's like, man, we're there to listen and to absorb. And, you know, sometimes we're like, hey, we don't really want to talk about this. What about the positive things in the world, right? And the people that we've been able to connect and bring to the show, because we have a platform, because the power of the platform allows us to keep the eyes in what matters, which is the connections, the opportunities that we can create as an entrepreneur, right? So like, this is why we feel so passionate about this platform. For everybody listening, that if you're debating, like, should I do it? Should I not do it? If you are a business, should I do it? Yes, go ahead and do it. Go through the learning curve. Like we just gave you permission. Matt just gave you permission to do 1 episode a month. That's it. Like, and then speed up as you need, because in the process is what is where the gold is, right? Everything else is a consequence. And like, personally, I wish I could just say this right now, but personally, like on the 23rd, we're about to prove to you that consistency pays off big time. And not just that, but like in the process, we've been able to build incredible relationships. I remember Katie, my wife, I don't know if this happened to you, but my wife goes like, hey, Luis, do you have friends? Because, you know, we were in college and I was part of a fraternity. I was part of the soccer team. Like, that we will go out. Like there was a lot of people in our lives, and as we graduate, as we move on, you know, what's been now like almost 7 years. I don't do public math. I don't do public math. It's been a few years, right? Then you're like, okay, people move away, and you know the location it's a different environment, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have almost 300 incredible entrepreneurs that I've been able to connect, and we continue the relationship. And when we went to an event in Orlando a couple months ago, we literally sat. We were talking behind cameras, like that. You do the podcasting when you travel as well, right?
The travel setup.
We were setting up, and we had people that had been on the show come in, people from the audience that started coming in, and we chatted for like I think it was like 6 hours. We couldn't do the episode because we just kept seeing people and connecting and hugging and saying hi and how's your family, I know these things, and it feels so good. So the benefit apart from the business is so big. And that's why we're such a fan. So, Matt, thank you for allowing me to like rant and just like hug the mic this time, because it's so powerful. And I feel like you feel the same love, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And what we're doing here is like sharing those stories that makes us better every single day. And we're the first audience members, right? Like everybody's like, I want to serve the audience. Well, serve yourselves first. And this is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
I think I have a new concept for a new t-shirt. Podcasting to make friends. I like it. Matt, let's transition a little bit here to what you guys are building with Pod Rocket Academy. I'm very curious, obviously, because you're talking about launching and promoting podcasts, and we geek on that stuff. So share a little bit on, first, why did you guys decide to start that, right? What was the need that you saw? I'm guessing you guys want to have more impact faster, right? Get to reach more people. But what is the kind of like the special sauce behind it? Why somebody would be interested in Pod Rocket?
So yeah, you really hit FONZI. I mean, we realize that our core services, just not everybody can afford us. We're not right for everybody. We understand that. And I was years ago, I was being interviewed right away, like early on. We were doing OPP, which is other people's podcasts, which is a great technique to grow your own podcast and grow your network, as you guys know. And so the person said to me, you know more about podcasting, or you've forgotten more about podcasting than I know. And I was like, well, first off, thanks. Secondly, I don't believe you. Third, this means something. So we decided that we were going to start distilling not just how to execute a podcast. So the Academy will teach you how to start your podcast, like everything: equipment, editing, programs, pre-production, post-production, graphic design, show notes, content creation, all of that sort of stuff. But then it also teaches you how to market your show. I don't think people really understand, especially in the B2B world, how powerful this medium can be to grow your actual business, to bring in new clients. If you do it correctly, it is a wonderful way to fill up your pipeline. So we teach that too. We also teach some auxiliary stuff, right? We teach branding. Like, we have some basic branding stuff, because you guys, you're all over branding. You got the cool thing behind you. I mean, you guys got this super cool screen here that I'm on. You know, all of your stuff is very consistent when it comes to branding, and that's really important, but not everybody knows that. We also teach you how to get guests, because that's one of the greatest, you built a whole podcast thing around this. How do you get guests? What do you do? How do you get them to show up? How do you get them to be prepared? You guys have some great stuff, and I want everybody to hear this. So I've been on lots and lots and lots of shows. Somebody will say, hey, Matt, I want you on the show. We will show up to the recording thing. They are not prepared. They don't even know what they're going to talk to me about, and they think they can hit record. You guys sent me a pre-record form that had me ask all of these questions, my headshot, my social profiles, right? This is what you got to do, right? And if you as a business do the same thing, that front end shows how prepared and organized you are with just a podcast. Can you imagine what we can do for you with my business, right? And so we teach all of that stuff too, because it's so vitally important for people to understand the power of this medium.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, we're gonna leave all the links right below. Matt and I had a conversation last week, and I took a peek. I'm guilty. I haven't, head first yet, but I dipped my toe, and it was awesome. It was so good. It looked incredible. And those are all the resources that, for example, like as I was like scanning through it, I'm like, man, this would have been so awesome when we had the porn set. So yeah, go ahead and click the link below. And I'm like, it's so awesome. Again, we were talking about like the abundance, because I was explaining, I was sharing with you, I'm like, we might want to go that direction, right? We've had the same comments. We're like, man, this is a cool example, going off of the last episode of Manufacturing Serendipity, right? Like, we go to this coffee shop that literally, I think this is the first time that you actually see the set, because all the conversations we've had in the coffee shop.
In the coffee shop, dude. Every time I've talked to you, you've been hanging out in the shop.
Yeah, the coffee shop. So the manager is working for like this other company, and now we have a call or a meeting actually there every Wednesday at 8 a.m. talking about how to set up that podcast, because like that's the thing, right? So, and you were so kind to be like, dude, there's enough for everybody. This is so cool. We just want to continue to connect, and if we can help and serve more people to do this, at the end of the day, everybody's winning, right? Yeah. Everybody's winning. So thank you, man.
I'm gonna put this out into the world. Eventually, we're gonna do a podcast named Serendipitous Coffee. And we're just going to interview random people
from the
coffee shops. And we're going to learn all about their stories and their challenges and what makes them extremely happy. And we're gonna bring a lot of people to tears of joy. I think it's going to be a great podcast. I'm just putting that into the universe.
You gotta crush the pronunciation of the name first.
Serendipitous coffee.
Did it pass? Yeah, thumbs up.
Thumbs
Okay.
up.
It did roll off your tongue very well, and that's a great idea. You might want to buy that URL immediately because you did put that out into the universe, and I
True.
guarantee your computer is listening to you right now, and you're going to start having all. Anyway, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no, that's good. First, I'm going to have to learn how to spell that word, but it's all good. Matt, there's something that you mentioned in there that kind of like went under the radar. I think we picked it up because we've been involved in the world, but you said it's very important having those processes, right? Because the guest gets to see kind of like how detail oriented you are on the front end with the podcast. And then they start thinking about it and they start wondering, if they're like this with a podcast, how are they in their business, right? And where I'm going with this is that you're talking as your guest turning into your client, your guest turning into, it fits probably the profile of your dream customer, right? And this is probably the topic that sets our soul on fire because we love building these relationships. And I want to clarify this. The people that we bring to the podcast is not because, they're just a perfect prospect to work with us. It's first and mainly is because we want to be friends with these people. They're absolutely amazing. They have value to share to the world. And the platform provides also a way where we can deliver value to them. And it allows to explore for an opportunity. So I'm curious. Can you kind of like dig a little deeper in there on what does it mean? Like, how are you getting these people? And, what is the process maybe to turn these people into incredible friends / customers?
Well, friends advocates, right? So that's the other thing. One of the greatest things is when you get people who believe in your product and service so much that they do the selling for you. And that's really where I think our system shines the most, right? It's not just net new business coming in the door, fresh new lead. It's doing business with existing clients that have already done business with you, because that's the most people rarely realize that selling to an existing client is way easier than finding a new one. Bringing in centers of influence, people who refer you business, referral partners. Guys, I'm going to refer business to you. There's no way I'm not, because we are like-minded business owners. For instance, if it's a business that I don't know enough about to write content successfully, I've already had great coffee conversations, and I will gladly refer, because I want to touch on that, and then I'll answer your question. Here's the problem in business today: is there's still an old guard that thinks it's pie. That if I give you a piece of pie, I have less pie. So therefore, I'm going to hold all of my stuff together and screw you because it's business, and I'm going to run you into the ground. There's a new school of people. I know I don't look very new school, but there's a new school of thought here that it isn't pie. Look, guys, there's more than enough to go around. Why am I not going to help you? Right? I don't understand why. And you have to, by the way, go into podcasting like that and content creation with that abundance mindset, because if you don't, you're going to get eaten alive. So the other thing that's really, really important is that your podcast needs to be part of a nurture sequence. Right? So it can't just be, hey, I'm going to put a podcast out in the world and woohoo, people are going to start beating down my door. Nope, doesn't happen. Right? First up, nobody's going to listen. Right? You actually have to have a system that you have built in order to get somebody from first-time subscriber to buying a product or listening to your show or advocating for you. And when you show those kick-ass systems right at the beginning, the people are like, well, holy crap, I feel like Matt and his team took really good care of me for just their marketing. Can you imagine what they actually do for a living? How much they're going to take care of me? It's just the proof's in the pudding, and I haven't even shown you the pudding yet. You see what I'm saying? So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yes,
absolutely,
100%. We illustrated when we try to explain this, like with the cookie analogy, right? Like, hey, you're gonna give somebody a cookie when you send that first email. Then you're going to give him a second cookie when you say thank you. Then you're going to give him a third cookie when you make this process so easy. And it's not like 3 pages of questions and like very hard to fill like Google Doc. It's just like 5-6 questions that, is super easy to fill out. And then you're going to give another cookie when everything is all set up in the calendar and all they got to do is like click one link and that's it, right? All these cookies, right? And then what happens if they have like 6 cookies in their hand and you take one? They're probably not going to get mad. And that take one is just an ask. And that ask can be like, hey, can you introduce me to maybe other guests of, you know, this certain market, right? And that's, by the way, for those listening, that's the secret of how we never run out of guests. We always ask, like, hey, do you have 2 or 3 people that could be a great fit for the show? And we've never had an issue in these 2 years of podcasting, right? Like, and then you keep asking for cookies, and then you give more cookies, right? And then you gotta figure out, like, what are those cookies to your dream guests, to the people that you really want to connect. For us, is content, right? Like, we provide content in different ways, right? We send them the link of the episode. We review their shows. We do these things that provide a ton of value in their eyes, and it builds a relationship. And we do it with, like, love, because at the end of the day, we're human beings and we're building these relationships not only for the transaction, but who knows? We've had people that we've actually showed the system, and they're like, this looks incredible, but, you know, I have my own team, right? And it's a no. And we're like, that's totally okay. But guess what? They turn around and 5 months later, they're referring somebody. They're like, dude, you guys will be a good fit for this. Or they make an introduction and we go speak on stage. And it's like that. It's pay it forward. Yeah. And it's such a powerful system. It's such a powerful thing.
Yeah. There's a comment that you mentioned towards the beginning of the episode when we were talking about the importance of podcasting. And you mentioned being your own self, right? And it was before Be Your Own Loud that you mentioned. This is kind of like, you get to showcase your uniqueness, right? And your uniqueness is part of your advantage. And that has been huge for our show, for Content is Profit, right? We've had so many people that have come to the show, and literally after the intro, they have a reaction somewhat similar to you, right? You're like, oh man, I'm red, I'm blushing. And some people are like, man, I love the energy. This is absolutely amazing, right? And guess what? We know that we need to, we're always in the mindset of we can improve and we can always do better, right? Yes, we can do better interviews. We can do better post-show process and whatnot. But we focus on being ourselves during the show, and we come off with this amount of energy and, like my brother said, love. Like, let's build this awesome relationship. And we've had a lot of people that they feel so connected to us because of the experience, right? And then of course we try to take care of them after the main experience as well, which is kind of like what you're talking about, right? That process. So I want to encourage people as well to, just like you said, be your own loud, lean into your uniqueness. How can you make this process so you, exactly, just that, so you, that your guest becomes extremely excited to hang out more with you, right? Like you said, they want to be an advocate. So can you guide us a little bit? Can you give us like a teaser of what is maybe some of the steps? And we're running close to the end here. We can dive in for way longer, but can you give us a teaser, a little bit of what are some of those steps that maybe you include in Pod Rocket, that you're teaching people in the Pod Rocket Academy, so they can potentially, you know, maybe start thinking on how they can market their podcast. And I'm going to encourage them already to go and check out Pod Rocket and obviously subscribe and learn from the best.
So this is something. So for B2B, what you want to do is everybody just grab a quick piece of paper, and I want you to write down your top 12 favorite clients. Now, these don't necessarily need to be the people who buy the most from you or ever, but the names of your top 12 favoriteest clients, all right? And then after you write down those 12 names, what you're going to do is you're going to write down what you actually know about them outside of the transactions that you have. So maybe they love hiking, soccer, football. Maybe they love sailing or wine, or maybe they have private jets, right? Whatever it is. So what you're going to do is then you're going to pick up the phone. Now, I know this is old school, or communicate with them however you do, Snapchat them, whatever you need to do. But go ahead and reach out to them and say, hey, I know that you love this. Who do you know that knows a lot about this that you would love for me to interview for my show? So I'm going to use wine because wine's really easy and people can really sink their teeth into it, right? So let's say that you have the greatest wine sommelier or dealer that you buy expensive wine from, right? Rich people do this crap all the time, right? And so what you do is you say, okay, well, her name is Josephine. So, hey, would you introduce me to Josephine? You call up Josephine and you say, hey, look, I want to interview you for my show. By the way, I work with financial services people, or I work with rich people, and so they're going to love you. And I want to ask you about wine. All I want to talk about is wine. All right. And then you go back to your client and say, hey, I was able to land Josephine on the show. What questions do you want me to ask Josephine? So now I've got total 100% buy-in from one of my top 12 clients. I do the show. All right. So I do the show. I interview Josephine. We talk about wine. I sound really smart. She sounds unbelievably intelligent. Show's kick ass. We're done. Post-production. When it's in post-production, then you call that client back up or message them or text them, whatever you're going to do, and say, I have a favor to ask. It's the principle of reciprocity. I just got done interviewing Josephine. The show is going to go live on this date. Would you share that show with 20 people who love wine as much as you do? It's not about you being a business owner. It's not you about hawking your financial services, your insurance products, your HVAC units. It's about wine. It's about something that is really a passion of that person. And what that allows you to do is gain access to 20 of their top people. And I guarantee you're going to make money from it.
I love that. This is such a unique point. I've never heard this one before. And
It's so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can already see the value from it. And I think it's a great action point, honestly.
By the way, for those that maybe tuned out, kind of sucks, but go back to the minute 49, rewind minute 49, go in there and re-listen to this whole thing. And again, listen to Matt, take a piece of paper and write these steps down because this is so powerful. That's what I was doing. Yeah. That's why I was so quiet.
This is the perfect action point. Matt, we always ask, what is one action point that somebody can take to move one step forward? And I think this is it, right?
This is more like 10 steps forward. This is so good.
Yeah, this is a huge leap forward. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. This is absolutely amazing. Yeah. I'm gonna revisit this and see how we can potentially include this inside of our process.
We'll share the results, Matt. We'll share it.
Yeah. So Matt, we got another question for you. Usually we have those two questions towards the end. But where would you be if you didn't publish?
What do you mean? Where would I be if I didn't publish?
If you didn't create content, if you didn't have a podcast, where would you be?
I wouldn't have a job. I mean, you want to really get brass tacks, dude, I'll tell you, I'd be broke, right? I mean, the fact that we've built our entire multi-million-dollar business off of a podcast and sharing content and interviewing great guests, I don't know where I'd be. I'd probably still be a mediocre practice management consultant, making okay money and having it be more of a lifestyle business than really helping free the world's experts from the torment of sales and helping an industry that has such a horrible name. And people look at financial advisors as these terrible people, but what they don't realize is 99% of them are unbelievable humans who truly just want to help. And what we want to do is get their voice out into the marketplace to help you as the people who just live, who don't know what they do, gain access to their brilliance and hopefully make better financial decisions. That's the ultimate goal. That's why I am where I would be. It's just not pretty, guys. Yeah, I mean, why you got to take me there? I don't even know if I really want to think about that anymore because that's really freaking depressing. So.
Motivation. That's why I'm at. Now you're gonna, we're gonna say goodbye here, and you're gonna get back to where you're like, let's go, time to crush.
Matt, you know what you just did? You just inspired someone to go and take the leap and go execute on this thing. So, and this is why we do it because it's not just us, man. Like this, like we say every single episode is every single person that comes in here, and it's like just the proof that everybody needs start your own platform. And at the beginning, full circle, we mentioned maybe it's not podcasting at first, but it's some kind of creation, right? We obviously recommend podcasting because it's a medium where you can leverage and you can take advantage of many aspects of the content creation part because it's your base content. There's technical side. I mean, go to the academy, right? Give us a call, send us a DM, and we can share a bunch of examples of what you can do with a podcast episode. But the very first thing is that pillar, which is the relationship, which is so cool, so awesome. So thank you for inspiring the Content Profit fam.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Where can people sign up for the Pod Rocket Academy?
So podrocketacademy.com is where you want to go there. Proudmouth.com is our website. I'm old school. I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I live just because that's where my ideal prospects are. So if you guys want to have just unbelievable free content that really will help you learn how content is profit, if you follow me on LinkedIn, we talk about it all the time.
Love
awesome.
it. Thank you, man. Guys, scroll, click all the links, follow him, connect with him. You know already what to do. Give him a call. Hey, Matt, what's your favorite beard trimmer? I want to interview them, right?
Matt, didn't I ask you about the secret on the beard like the first time we met? Like we're like, dude, how?
You brought it up right out of the gate. And you were asking because yours is not like your brother's.
I mean, mine is non-existent. Like there's no beard. Let's just put it as it is.
It's all about oil, man. That's what it is.
All right, I'm gonna get to get Matt. You're gonna have to send me your oil of preference.
There's homework for Matt. Matt, you gotta send us the Pelican cases.
Hey, I'm up for that, dude.
Yeah, Pelican cases and the oil for the beer.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of the Pelican case for you guys today, so you can see my setup. So absolutely.
So awesome.
Dude, thank you so much.
Anything else you want to add before we head out?
No, hey guys, thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for helping people realize that creating unbelievable content is the way for them to grow their business and grow their overall persona. There needs to be more of us out there that have a great process like you guys do. So thanks for killing it for your clients, and I hope you guys just take over the world, man.
Thank you, man. It means a lot.
We'll take over together. Let's do this. The pie is huge. The pie is huge.
There's pie for everybody. That's right.
Yeah, Fonzie, anything else you want to add?
I just kind of want to add a little bit to what Matt was saying here, right? Is podcasting is such a great tool for growth, even if not in the business sense. Just like if you're interested in just growing as a person, just becoming a better version of yourself. And I know this sounds so cliche, but podcasting is such a great way to do it because there's something magical that happens when you put your thoughts into words and when you connect with incredible people and they get to share their world with you. So I want to thank everybody that tuned in today. Thank you, Matt, so much for sharing your story, sharing your how we call them #golden boulders. They were absolutely amazing. And I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to have you here for a second time. And we're going to keep talking. Or maybe we'll do a live show. I think that would be pretty epic too.
At the coffee shop. We talked about the coffee shop. Hanging out at the coffee shop. Hey, we got to make it happen. Awesome, guys. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS. Go.
That is right. And if Matt here helped you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and follow it. See ya.
Bye, guys.